What's up, y'all? We are on time.
Yes!
Like Sammy promised our lovely night owls. Welcome to Daytime Talk After Dark. My name is Al Jackson, but that is not important. What is important is that I am joined by three of the loveliest ladies that are holding it down for my man Jeff, who's with family, hanging out this week. It's the holiday, so that's okay.
Can we pause before you introduce us? Can you introduce us with what we look like? My favorite Al Jackson thing is he always has a very obscure reference to our clothing. So Al.
Look, Sam, you're putting me on the spot, but it looks like you had a one-night stand with a businessman in New York in the early 80s and had to leave when his wife came home early.
Is this his jacket?
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
that's
you
good.
should be wearing Stetson cologne.
That's good.
Erica, looking like human beings and fabric have fused in the future. And we are now one. Unity.
That is my new vibe.
You look like a kid's drawing of the sun.
Are you?
Doesn't she? I love your fit.
Is there undergarments under there, Erica?
Yes, I'm wearing
Girl.
undergarments.
All right, and that was a very Me Too question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
She looked cute and cozy, and I was just curious. Okay, Tori's turn.
Speaking of curious, Tori, who's reading her phone, sorry to bother
I'm
you.
trying to get to the comments.
Yes, all
But do you
right.
notice I matched the couch with my pants and the
Look,
top with
don't
this?
try and get ahead of what I'm going to say. All right, Tori, you look great.
Thanks.
You look like you teach seminars on Zoom for other RAs. You look very
freshmen
responsible.
are gonna be scared.
Listen, guys, no visitors after midnight. Tori, we're glad you're here.
job.
Red Solo Cup on deck. You guys ready to get started?
Yes,
Yeah.
Black
Yes.
Steve Jobs.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Erica.
Absolutely.
Although it's only from the top up because he's wearing sweats from the bottom down.
Yes.
With a stain? What is that on the knee?
No, that's paint.
You have paint on everything.
He's
Yes.
an artist. I've seen.
You
can
have
I
paint,
paint
on
shoes.
everything.
I'm going to brag about Al because the last time I went to your house was just a couple days ago, and I was in awe of not only you showed me the new shoe collection that you're about to sell,
Yes.
but also this like plant exhibit.
Yeah, it's like a
It's an
living
installation.
organism behind my TV
Unbelievable. I'm
installation.
obsessed
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
It's like I have an idea, I get started on it, I'm like, oh, this is a lot bigger project than I thought, and then it ends up like it was hours, but I don't drink, so I got time.
That's awesome.
Yes. So let's get started. You guys are, dare I say, pumped up about this, the Vander.
I don't know anything about it.
I don't know anything.
I'm gonna
So
get-
you guys,
you
please,
guys start.
this is. Are you leaving?
Is Tori okay? Tori, I feel like your energy's a little off. Can we talk about it?
Why? Because she got up and walked away?
No,
Okay.
I think, I just want to check in with her because
Okay, let's do that real quick.
when she walked in, I could feel,
I felt
don't-
that too.
I don't feel or see auras like Tori does. Tori sees actual auras.
But can she see her own aura?
Yeah, because I feel like you're,
Yeah.
how are you feeling?
It's just holidays are hard, really, really hard. If anyone doesn't know, my mom died in January, and like this is the first holiday, and they're coming here. We're gonna spend it with Erica, but it's really tough, dude. We're keep it real here. It's just you just want her to be coming.
Yeah.
I want them to be coming,
Right.
but
Sorry.
yeah, it is rough.
The firsts are so hard.
I
Yeah.
know,
You know?
that it is in no way the same or a replacement, but my family is so excited that your family's
they're-
coming.
You have no
And
idea how excited they are to have a place to land.
Yo, like we have been talking about it so much.
That means a lot to me,
Like
Erica.
I cannot wait to see like your dad and my dad like chatting it
Yes.
up.
It
It's
was
gonna be
meant to
great.
be.
Like,
It was gonna be good.
I just can't wait. Your sister Katie, I can't wait till she has this whole conversation with my little cousin Tyshawn.
I can't wait.
I feel like they're gonna have so much to talk about.
I can't wait for that.
Obviously, you always have a great time when we're, partying it up at our house.
I love their house. And really, I couldn't be anywhere else, but like, I don't know. I can't hide it.
Don't
Sucks.
hide it. Do not hide it. Do you
Yeah.
know how many people? I would guess that the people that are watching right now, more than half feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
like the first one you said,
the
it's like,
firsts are the hardest, the
suck.
absolute hardest.
yeah. And I just don't feel like myself. And I don't know. I just don't feel like myself.
You don't have to fake it. You
Yeah.
are in a
And like
safe
Josie's
place.
dying too. So it's like, I'm getting hit. I can't, the job situation is real rough. Like, I'm just kind of getting hit from all angles. And like, I'm not very good at being like, I'm fine. Like, it's just hard. I wish you were here.
I'm sorry, Tori.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is something that.
I'm sorry, everyone.
No, do not apologize.
No.
Do not apologize.
She
Look
should
at how
apologize to
cute
me.
Nick
She's
is.
tanking the show.
Like,
Such a dick. Such a dick. Sorry, I
think
cursed.
It's really important that, because a lot of people are feeling this right now.
Yeah.
And not to get like too woo-woo about it, but this is a major time of transformation in the universe.
Oh, I feel it.
And so many things are either feel like they're being taken away from us or ripped. And, we've all kind of gone through these transitions, not that it's the same. Everybody kind of has experienced it in different ways. And I feel like it's such an important time just in the world and in the moment to just let it be.
Yeah.
And to sit in what it is so that you can be clear about what your next moves will be. Because I can tell you that your mother's always with you and she's wants to guide you.
Yeah.
You need to be still.
Yeah.
You need to be settled in whatever that feeling is.
Yeah.
And you'll start to feel like what you need to do next, because too often we get shaken and we have to like move.
Impulsive,
and you don't have to
No.
move.
I
think
feel
it's
that
okay
way
for you
too.
to sit and be.
Yeah, I feel that way too. And like, I really do. But sometimes when I sit and be, and I don't know if others can feel this way, ADD people can understand this. It turns into like sloth or like torpor. Like it gets really languid and kind of like, I can't then get up and move. So there's this like no gray area that I know ADD people could understand. I'm learning more about it.
That's
but
also depression as well.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
so there's these extremes.
Yep.
And there's no like, I'm calm. It's just like, I'm like a sloth or I'm on cocaine.
It's
So I'm kind of just dealing with that, but I am working on something about transitions because everybody relates to that, man.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody
And it's
relates.
part of-
Everybody.
Tori,
Thanks, guys.
if this
Thank
makes you
you.
feel
We
any
love
better,
you.
just before
Hang
we
in
get
there.
started,
Thank you.
It's the way the world is supposed to work. As a parent,
Yeah.
my dream is to leave this planet where my kid is doing great. They're married to an incredible person. They were on a popular talk show, now a super popular podcast, and like they're not bailing you out of jail every weekend.
Right.
They're not breaking up a domestic. They're like, in a weird way, when your kids become you guys, you're kind of playing with house money at that point. You guys are the whole point. You guys made it to adulthood.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents can't say that for a number of reasons. So just understand that this is the only way
Yeah,
that it can happen.
You're right.
And it doesn't mean it sucks any less.
Right.
But I've seen other situations that are not as pleasant. And so take that for what it's
Thank
worth.
you.
And I can say just the idea of you guys all hanging out really quickly. I came to pick my girlfriend, Sarah, from Erica's house. I think I had a show and you guys were all hanging out. And I opened up the front door. I think it was unlocked. And it was Erica, Corinne. Was Tori there?
Yeah.
Tori was there. And my girlfriend. And I remember just having this snapshot. And I was like, my whole life is like right in front of me. All the women that I love are like in here. Sammy, you weren't there. But like you were there in spirit. But yeah, honestly, like
Sam was gone.
it's just like so cool how we all intermingle and like
we're lucky. We're family.
Totally.
Yeah.
You totally called me up too. Thank you. I needed that to
No,
be
it's not to
pierced.
call you out. I
No,
just
I
want
didn't
to
mean
make
that,
sure you're
but
okay.
I needed to hear that.
Yeah,
Thank you
I
for
felt-
holding space. I needed
I felt that.
Yep.
And that's why people like the show, because we can't just do the show where Tori's just like choking back tears
Totally
talking about
agree.
Vanderpump. But I do want to talk about Vanderpump because I need you to know this before we go into this topic. I feel like I
know
represent Tori and a number of our night owls that
Hoot,
don't know
hoot.
anything about Vanderpump except for the name. So please tell us what the big excitement is about the reboot of the all-new cast. Is that possible? Can you reboot an all-new cast?
Erica, let's start. Erica is
Well,
the Bravoholic. But
I
will
am the
chime in.
Bravoholic, but Sam, you are a pump queen.
Is that what they call it?
Well, I think it's something
Sounds like
else.
someone
rest-
HBO
I'm a
real
pump
sex.
teeny. A pump teeny.
So I think you should kind of bring everyone up to speed.
Oh my gosh. So first of all, the last 2 seasons of Vanderpump Rules, to me, at least to most of the people, have been I mean, we talked about it on DBL. And we never talked about Vanderpump Rules on DBL. And the reason why we all did was because of Scandival. Remember Scandival?
Oh, yeah.
And last season was kind of like the follow-up to Scandival, and you got to see Ariana Grande.
Nope.
Ariana Madix. We're going to talk about Ariana Grande soon with Wicked. Phenomenal. But Ariana Madix, you know, and her come up and her comeback, we kind of got to see that last season. But these were like the most watched seasons. Now, all of a sudden, we find out this morning that Vanderpump Rules, Lisa Vanderpump, I don't know how much Erica would know this more than me, Andy Cohen was involved, because we'll get to the cast reactions and Andy Cohen's reaction soon. But yeah, all the cast chimed in today, and we're going to get to that. But to have the original cast that's been around, I feel like for 10, 11 years now, maybe even more, to have that OG cast gone. I mean, we've seen new cast members come in and out, but
So they're all gone.
Every single one. And some of them are going to get to graduate on to the spinoff, The Valley, but not all of them. So Sheena gets to go to The Valley. Tom Schwartz, I believe, will be going to The Valley. And then the other ones, we don't know what will happen.
So they haven't said anything about Lala?
No. Lala will probably end up in The Valley.
Well,
but
because
Lala
they kind
would
of
be
foreshadowed that at least Lala and
You might be right. Yep.
were in the first season of The Valley.
Right.
Now, I think what's important to note for people who don't really understand what Vanderpump Rules is, like, it was basically a show where they followed these young people who had a dream in Hollywood, and they were working at a restaurant that owned by Lisa Vanderpump, who during the spinoff time was still a Real Housewife of Beverly Hills. And so we've been following the lives of these young people as they've tried to navigate like careers and relationships and eventually this huge scandal. Now, the talk in the Bravo sphere has been, because I went to BravoCon last year and I got to interview Tom Sandoval. And this was in the height of, Scandival. We were still talking about it.
Pause. A lot of our viewers, including myself, like to hear the tea. Was he nice?
He was very nice. It was a very awkward exchange, though, because at one point I acknowledged it was him, Tom Sandoval, and Tom Schwartz. And I acknowledged them both. But then I turned to Schwartz to say something to turn back to Sandoval. So I was like, and about Sandoval. And then he turned over my shoulder. He's like, that's me. And I was like, I know. So then it went to like my question, which I wasn't trying to be like, people try to have a moment. I wasn't trying to have a moment, but I did want to ask the question of Tom Schwartz, because he's Tom Sandoval's best friend. Like, what have you learned about boundaries when it comes to friendship, And for Sandoval, I wanted to know what he had taken away from this experience for his comeback.
Right.
And so it was just like it was kind of a weird exchange to begin with. But then I felt like it was nice to see him. And I'm like, you look great, because he looked healthy. He had stopped drinking.
Right.
He had stopped smoking. His skin was glowing. He was in really great shape.
His skin was glowing.
Seriously.
He shaves his face.
Yeah, he looked.
That's he shaves all dermaplane.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he looked very healthy.
Okay.
But I'm
what
not
was the
surprised.
chit chat? Why aren't you surprised?
Because the chit chat in the Bravo sphere has been that, one, there has been rumors of casting for new people for Vanderpump Rules for quite some time. And there just wasn't a connection between the new people that they were casting or looking at and the old cast. And honestly, a lot of Bravo shows are like either being put on pause, like Real Housewives of Dubai.
They said Dubai bye.
Yeah, the future of the Real Housewives of New Jersey is kind of up in the air.
That's crazy to me.
There's been a lot of different things that they're kind of like pausing. So I could see that they lost the plot.
Okay.
And it was time
Can
for
I
a
ask a
reboot.
question to somebody that's obviously outside of this universe? Do you think we're going to start to see this more in reality shows? Because reality shows are really almost like the minor leagues for stars. And now I know who Tom Sandoval is, so he's a star. I don't know what he does, but if I know your name. I mean, a lot of people know who Serena Williams is and haven't ever watched a full tennis match. That's when you're really famous. And so once you get to be a star,
You get to do anything.
Right.
That's Trump. I'm so sorry. The boss.
good.
I'm sorry.
So that threw me off. That was really funny.
I'm so sorry.
So, like, do you think that you can't control stars as much as you can a reality show person because they're hungry and they'll do anything. So do you think this is a jettisoning of those stars and bringing in young, hungry reality people that'll be more likely
cheaper
and will do what you want? I mean, it's
I think that they ultimately, if it's a group, and we understand this.
Do you think it'll be at Sir? Or do you think it'll be at like Tom Tom or somewhere new?
Someone says it sounds like
because they
Greek
also
to me.
announced that
Schwartz and Sandy's is closed.
And Sandy's is closing.
Did you
which
hear
was
that?
Their restaurant.
I did.
Schwartz and Sandy's closed.
I'm not sure where it'll be, but we understand this because of the nature of our friendships have gone past a show. So when you have a group of real friends, and that is the premise of the show, when it's clear that they're not real friends anymore, it makes it very difficult to follow a plot.
She's right, especially if like Ariana doesn't want to
film with
Tom Sandoval. If there's a lot of stipulations, I'm sure that we don't even know about within their contracts. But yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of changes in television.
Yes.
And the writing's been on the wall for years. So we've been talking about it, and it's here.
Sam, while you're on it, why don't you just get to the cast reactions? Talk about that really quickly.
So I mean, they're all grateful. I mean, you hear Ariana Maddox saying, I don't have their verbatim. I can pull it up, but Ariana pretty much just thanked Andy Cohen and Evolution Media and everybody involved and Bravo, because it really did launch all of their careers. Lala, same thing, and they have been I don't think they knew it was coming, because both of them wrote, I'm talking about Ariana and Lala, talked about it by saying, I was up all night trying to figure out what words I could say. So I feel like they all found out yesterday. When it comes to Katie Maloney, she just posted it on her stories. So maybe she's feeling a certain way. I would think that she would have posted an actual post thanking everybody. But, you look at, they all have additional ventures now. If Sheena's going to be on The Valley, and Katie and, Ariana have something about her. That's their sandwich shop that does very well. Ariana is... she just was on Dancing with the Stars. She was just on Broadway in Chicago. So I think Ariana is going to be just fine.
Okay. Well, speaking of Broadway, since you brought it up.
Wicked, yes.
Let's talk about
Did
Wicked.
Anybody see it?
I didn't see the movie, but
okay.
I have
of
seen
course,
it.
yes. And you've, of course,
Katie and I are going to go see it.
Oh, my gosh.
My sister and I.
It is...
I hear it's wonderful.
It is. Okay, the reason why I wanted to bring it up, because I know so many people are diehard Wicked fans, and, the movie has broken box office records, but it really is more than the play, a really big conversation piece. In fact, I took Sophie and her friend to go see Wicked, and then when I came back, I told her friend's mom, you're really going to have a talk with your daughter. And I said, it almost overtly shows through Cynthia Erivo, she plays Elphaba, through, you feel the othering happening. You feel it. And, when you're watching the play, you're not close up. You don't get to see their eyes. You don't get to see the tears. You don't get to see the trembling. And so when you see Elphaba, who was born with green skin, when you see her othered for that, and the way she's treated, and then the way she's...
It's like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I've said that for a long time.
Rudolph
was othered because he had a red nose.
And Santa knew.
Until
and
they
Santa
did not prepare for a winter storm, which
Thank
how do you do that?
And Santa knew.
And then they had to go get him sorry, we clowned you.
Yeah.
Can you help us meet our demand since but then they banish him?
Yeah, they ostracized
Don't get me
him.
into Rudolph. I think it's a terrible story.
Okay, we're going to get into Rudolph. But Elphaba's character, you think all this time through The Wizard of Oz that she's evil, she's a witch. And when you finally see the play, and this is no spoilers, I guess if you've never seen the musical, if you've never seen the movie, then you might want to tune out, because I'm going to go there because I think it's an important conversation to have with your kids. But in the actual movie, you actually, Cynthia Erivo did such a good job making you feel it. And I can only imagine, as a Black woman, and she has said this in her interviews, that it was easy for her to draw on her Black female experience. It was easy for her. She's a remarkable actress, but so you feel it, you see it, and then there's even little quips that I'm sure went over my child's head. But if you're a teenager, I don't see color. and what a flippant microaggression that is, and there's microaggressions all over it. And then there's the part, in the end, I mean, this is only part 1. That I did not know. That threw me off. I did not know that this would end halfway.
Yeah, it ends at Act 1. At the end of Act 1.
Yes.
Really?
So before you go into intermission, that's where it ends. That threw me off. And it is really long for kids. Like I could see Sophie and her friend kind of itching.
How long is it?
Like 240, but then there's like
Whoa.
40
it's
minutes of
160,
previews.
100. Yeah, there's a lot of
So
time.
you're looking like a 3-hour thing,
Right.
but both my daughter and her friend loved every moment of it. I bawled at the end. But my point again, if you're going to go see it, I strongly recommend that you have the conversations, with your child afterwards. And Sophie and I talked, about, what did you feel when you saw Elphaba? Because at the end too, you also see the wizard, who's painted to be this grand, amazing, kind, empathetic person that's there to help the people. And in reality, he gaslights and scapegoats and makes Elphaba the evil one. And it's easy to paint her to be evil because
Child,
she's
I
other.
could tell this
I know.
story in so many different ways.
And she could. And Erica, I believe me, I would not want to talk if Erica had already seen the movie.
Right.
So, because it's true. Like, as a white woman watching it, it's so powerful for a young kid to watch and feel what that must be like. So then I had some conversations with Sophie about what othering is, what being an upstander is, what race. I mean, we've had so many conversations about race, but again, like, racism, all of that. And Sophie got it. So I just want people, if you go, take the time to take your young teen or child to see this incredible movie. Afterwards, kind of have a debrief.
All right, I have a question for Tori about this, because Sam's talking about, talking to her daughter about race and all that after Wicked. Do you think that could start to make kids, I don't know, not take their childhood away, but I'm assuming some kids like myself would have just looked at this as a movie and not seen any of that. And even though I would have been enlightened, it takes a little bit of the magic away. So what do you think about just letting your kid watch this or a kid, just watch it, and if you loved it, great. If you saw the cultural implications, great. If you didn't, that's fine too.
I think that's all good. I think art is meant to do that. And some kids are going to watch this all alone and totally skip it. And some kids are going to have these really awesome, in-depth conversations like Sam's kids. And that's also awesome. But it doesn't really matter because it's like you kind of get what it means anyway. I don't know. Those kind of movies where it's about like ostracizing someone else, kids pick up on things like that pretty easy. I mean, they are smart kids. And even if it's like she's green, not black or whatever, you know what it's like to have not sit at that table or not allow someone to be with you. So I'm so, and John Chu to direct this the whole thing is just, it's Michelle. Yeah. It's all wonderful. Yeah. I did read a New York Times article just to put a thing on that, whatever one wants to talk, but they said it could read a little fluffy until Cynthia comes on. And without her, it's a little hair flippy, which it is, right?
Right. But without, that's the contrast.
Right. And with her, apparently, she grounds the entire movie.
But that's also the contrast between being nice and kind, right? So you have Ariana Grande's character who comes off so sweet and so nice. And the difference between being nice and kind is genuine. Nice is like, I'm going to put a smile on my face and I'm going to laugh about you, behind your back. And there's such a difference. And I think it does not take my child's innocence away. I think, if anything, if she's going to have classmates in her class that have to deal with racism, my daughter needs to know what racism is and how to be an upstander. So I think, we're all in this together as a community. And in second grade and younger, I mean, I can't speak to this as well as Erica can, so please chime in. But as a mother to my child, I didn't give a PowerPoint on what it meant, but I thought it was a really great, valuable lesson for her to just be aware.
Well, first of all, Sam, you're an amazing mom, and your children are very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
I think it's interesting to me because, obviously, if you are obviously followed us from DBL, so I've talked about working in the child welfare system or volunteering in child welfare system. And when people talk about, I want to protect my children, I always think like, you can't protect your children from the world that you ultimately have to put them into. And that starts with the child who sits next to them in school. And ultimately, for me, it's like when it says it takes a village to raise a child, like we have decisions to make about who is going to be a part of that village, because that village is going to affect your child. Your child is going to be as safe as the child next to them when they're in a position of being in school or being in community. There's no way for parents to step in there and say, well, you know, my child won't. So anytime we have these conversations, and granted, I am not a mother. I do not have children. However, I don't think that I need to have had children to understand the importance of child welfare and understand how children can be reared. Not should be reared. I don't know. That's your decision as a parent. But like, as they can be reared. And I think when we have these conversations about like, I want a shelter, well, all you're really doing, to be quite honest, because I've seen this in action and I've seen it go very badly, is making your child ill prepared for the world in which they're going out in.
Right. Well,
so
I will say this, and I will say this as a confession, as a parent. Obviously, I couldn't or didn't shelter my kids. My kids are very worldly, but I will say that I did delay. You know, it's almost like you want to hold off one more day before you tell them that that magic isn't real.
Santa's real.
You know, if a kid sees a magic trick and they're like, oh, he took his thumb off. There's like, however long you take before you tell them his thumb's really there is how many more seconds you want to let them have that magic. And like, even when it's somebody's life that you want them to admire, I think I spoke about this on DBL a few times, but even, you know, talking to my son about MLK, you can't talk to him without talking about the Jim Crow South. And it's like, you look at these young people that are so fresh to the world, and it's just like, can they just have one more day without knowing about the atrocities that have been committed?
I think you can have age-appropriate conversations.
Yeah, but you have to have the conversation.
Right. I definitely think you can have age-appropriate conversations and even simply boil it down to, and there's so many great children's books out there that will literally make it very digestible, and they paint it as an empowering thing, not so much as stripping away their innocence. So when we read those books, I can see Sophie feel empowered. Like, if you see a child, you don't, you know, if there's a child being made fun of for their color of their skin or their hair or their body, or if they're, you know, in a chair, like, they paint it in a way where it's heroic to be an upstander. So in my opinion, I've never once seen Sophie feel like, like shocked, like if I were to tell her that, you know, who is not real. And so I do think there's a difference, because I think if anything, I'm setting her up for success. I'm setting her up to help someone, which will only make her feel better about herself. And God forbid, I don't want her to fall victim in a situation of playing follower if something is said, and her not to know how serious it is to call someone certain things.
Yeah, or to be prepared for that conversation. Because that's the thing about, you know, it's almost like, this is way down the line for, you know, the age group that we're talking about, but do you want to be the person to talk to your child about sex and intimacy? Or do you want someone outside of your home to introduce that to them?
Right.
And
I think we've seen the kids that have been introduced, not by somebody that cared about them.
And a lot of things that are
Same
going
with drugs
to,
and alcohol.
that are going to affect them for the rest of their lives happen at a time that a lot of parents are experiencing. So, Mom, Dad, what does this mean? When this happened, what is that? And it's like, they're already processing that something is amiss. Like, we have 3 godchildren, and one of my godchildren, my goddaughter, is, this girl looks like she has the whitest hair, like the bluest eyes. And and her mother was like, I mean, her mom's really into books and like literature and stuff. And so I always buy her books, and I always get the books with the brown people on it, because she's always like, TT, Erica gave me, you know, whatever. And the way that she comprehends things, it's like, in an area where, you know, a state where it's like, what, less than 10% Black, she is a lot more prepared than a lot of other kids who are a lot older than her, because it's very common. It feels like normal and natural, because there are areas in the state where you could go and live and not see a person of color. Like, let's just keep it all the way 100.
So a lot of places in this country.
Right. So I think it is important that, you kind of dictate that. But I feel like it's such a setback. And as the world is changing and things are becoming so aggressively, increasingly less tolerant when we had made so much progress, I mean, that pendulum will swing back. And you don't want your child to be on the other side of it.
All right. Well, we'll close it there. And
Beautifully said,
Erica, I do
Erica.
want to open with you on this one, because when I saw the story, I mean, you were really the queen of kind of realizing that the importance of social media on our show, and understanding that you needed to get ahead of that curve. And here you are. You got lots of followers, very popular podcast. So when I saw this article that 62% of social media influencers say that they do not fact check, it really struck me, because people like our brother Jeff, who listens to a lot of podcasts, he says he gets a lot of his news. And I think a lot of people got their news from The Daily Show, people our age, and John Oliver. So what should we do, or should anything be done to combat that? Because I think a lot of misinformation has been unintentionally and very much intentionally spread through these kind of what I call know-nothing podcasters. Like, I'm just a guy, I don't know. And it's like they have the Secretary of State on their show. I'm like, I don't know about this.
Then you have to start. My first question in a situation like that is, why is it important that we get this information from you, and who's making money off of this? But I think, much to even we were talking about Wicked, that's been something that has been a lot of internet fodder. So a story went around that Cynthia Erivo made $1 million and Ariana Grande made $15 million. And it picked up, and it was like all over social media, and people were doing their commentary and think pieces and all this stuff on it. And we know, having done a show for 7 years, where you're getting information in real time. And as one of my favorite podcasters say, normalize changing your mind based on new information. Thank you, Dame Galley. And I really do live by that. Like, I normalize changing my mind based on new information, because we live in a world where information flows so quickly. Now, since The Hollywood Reporter has come out and said that they were actually paid equally, but I understand why it took off and people were inclined to believe it. Because you have a Black queer woman, and then you have Ariana Grande. And of course they only paid her $1 million, they paid her $15 million. But what that does is it takes away from the real issues. Is pay disparity between people of color, specifically a Black woman in this situation, a queer person in this situation, and a white passing woman in this world, is that something that's nuanced? No, it's just what it is, Right. But I think it is important that you figure out where you're getting your information and just take it with a grain of salt, because there's no way that we're putting this genie back in the bottle.
Right.
And there's information everywhere, and you have to be able to use discernment. So I don't know if there's a way to be like, well, this is, there's certainly not going to be a fact checker for every podcaster.
I think that there is a way, and Tori, I want to shoot this at you, because we saw this with Fox News. You get sued when you say incorrect
Fox
things.
News.
But I mean, yeah, but Fox News is a big deal to us and maybe some people of a certain age. But right now, people like Joe Rogan or Call Her Daddy, those are, we like to think of them as these young upstart podcasts.
No.
Those are
bigger
titans of the industry.
Oh yeah.
And
$100 million contract for Call Her Daddy.
Yeah. So when you have a $100 million contract, Tori, should you be able to get $100 million sued because you have such a big platform? Because I feel like you can't say we're just a podcast, but also have more viewers and listeners than CNN, then Fox News? Like, can you have it both ways? Because Fox News learned the hard way. What was it, $787 million the hard way?
Yeah.
That you can't lie about elections.
So the problem is with the FCC, and that gets into whole things, and then the podcasts aren't on the FCC. But here's the thing with defamation. The one thing you need to know is this phrase: reckless disregard for the truth. So if you defame someone, and just so you know, Ari Melber is now being looked at by Steve Bannon. Not that any of you know who those people are, but Ari is a host on MSNBC, and he said a lot of bad things about Steve Bannon. And Bannon, who's now in the winning party, said, watch out, because I'm going to be suing you for defamation. So anything you say that has a standard of truth to it, and you have recklessly disregarded it and said it anyway about someone, you can sue. Now, could you lose? Yeah. Might you spend a lot of money trying to win? Yeah. But people like Tom Cruise, one article comes out, he sues. He will not take it. That is a border issue for him. So you
Scientology.
Exactly. It is a non-issue. They litigate. So for some podcasters, it's going to start becoming that. But just like my dad told me, his firm has to really start to learn podcast law. This is legislation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because guess what? This is whoosh, whoosh, the Wild West. Okay? Okay? There ain't laws here. It's Joe Rogan making the
coming out.
There was 2 guns, and Joe
Why
Rogan.
did you pull them out at the same time?
Joe
amazing.
Rogan's doing it because you know
She's
what? No one
fast.
else is there. He's running the saloon. Caller Daddy's down there with the horse shop. I'm just kidding. See, I could be sued.
Yeah.
But again, there's parody laws. Okay?
And you know what's really on the horizon,
Yeah.
if not now, is so we're dealing with this in broadcast news is AI. How many people are passing AI? We are not, but how many people are using AI to write articles and they are not disclosing that this was there could be a journalist out there that's making sure that they, cross their T's, dot their I's, and, that there's no sort of hallucinations in there. But if for any reason it starts to take off where you get a lot of lazy journalists using ChatGPT and different AI things to write their articles for them, to fact check for them, where is discernment
And
anymore?
who do you sue?
And so AI is going to be the next
Well,
one.
yes, but you sue the platform, even if they do say it was AI. It's like, well, it was on CNN or MSNBC or Fox.
Which, by the way, is breaking up, as you know.
Wait, what?
Well, Comcast. I mean, there was a big
yeah,
thing. So
yeah,
they're all,
yeah.
everything's getting smaller.
Yep.
Everything's going to streaming.
Yep.
And everything is getting harder to figure out with laws because you can avoid it. So, but again, that's what libel and defamation and slander, again, actual malice and reckless disregard for the truth. So that's what you need to know.
I mean, it's a big deal, and I'm going to say this and move on, but I remember 2 things to kind of reference what you guys both said. AI writing articles. I remember a couple years ago, I sent a screenshot to my homeboy before people were like even talking about AI for personal use. And it was of ESPN.com, and it was like a game breakdown. And I was like, a human being did not write this. It was factual, but it's just dry and robotic.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so
Kinda like
I
me
realized
being in
it's
a
been
coma.
happening for a while. What's that?
Kind of like when I was in a coma for
There's
18 months or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's.
I don't
But at
understand
least
what
that had
triggers.
some. That actually had some salaciousness to it.
Yeah, that
This
was
just
their
like
way of trying to get people to
cold.
clickbait. There was a whole AI
I'm
thing.
confused. What coma?
So
You didn't see the article about
I don't know what you're speaking of.
how AI got it wrong through the telephone game, so to speak.
I don't know what got it wrong through what. I have no idea.
I think-
I was, so this is what happened.
You were in a coma?
So I was submitting this thing for this thing I was doing. Anyway, so I Googled my name because I was looking at, it was like submit articles that have been written about you. So I was going through and
I don't have many.
I was copying and pasting the articles. And then I get to this article about how I was in a coma for 18 months. And
I don't mean to laugh. It's just
I
Maybe
remember
it
this.
was true and you forgot.
Are you still in it?
Yeah.
Are we real?
it's so creepy. So I click on this link because I'm like, it has to be a different Erica Cobb. But no, it's my photo. And it was talking about how my family was by my side. And it was like medically induced. Like, it was just so much detail. But it also appeared, it was like the same thing. It didn't have the cadence of a person writing it. It was clearly AI. But then I'm also like, well, how did my name get into, like, how does that happen?
Right.
Like, what is there some type of a system between, like, if you buy I don't know, if you buy like a Sonicare.
Well, I think the show had just ended.
And then you're.
I think the show had just ended.
No, this
it
was like
way
2 years ago.
before.
Oh, really?
I think AI will like take a story that Erica may have said, and it really was an article, and then somehow through like this line of, because you'll see all these different articles that are like based off of one story from like, it'll start with TMZ, and then it goes to 2Fab, and after 2Fab, it goes to like Vulture, after like it just goes through, and then eventually you get to like these rando articles that just use salacious clickbait that are all AI chat GPT like based. And I think somehow something that you said, or
maybe we spoke to someone in a coma?
I think that's how it happened.
How could we
in my
speak
opinion.
to somebody in a coma?
Like who came back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
We're like, anything else? Or?
Can you put the mic closer?
Very strange.
Okay. All right. Well, Tori, let's talk about this. This is our kind of our last serious article before we get into Thanksgiving fun. In response to right-wing backlash, Walmart has said that they are going to start to roll back or basically eliminate DEI programs. And I thought this was so interesting in that I notice when I go to Walmart's and also Home Depots across the country, because I'm 500 years old, that they have a very noticeably diverse group of people working in them no matter where I go. No, and I've always thought that. I'm like, you know, for as much as Home Depot might be considered more right-leaning than left-leaning, I see a number of trans employees, a number of openly gay employees, whatever. And they'll be helping some contractor. There's no issue. And I'm always like, it's so interesting what life looks like in social media. But I didn't know that was a specific program that they had implicated that I was seeing the real life effects of. So, Tori, what do you think about this? Because it's going to reverberate with a lot of companies. The end of DEI, as we've already seen the Civil Rights, the Voting Act go. I mean, these are affirmative action. It's a big deal.
Yeah. You know, the whole affirmative action case started at Michigan, where I went, and blossomed from there. So I was well versed in that whole issue. DEI has sort of been weaponized, hasn't it, as a term. I just want to neutralize it a bit. It's a bit like woke to me. It's a shame, in my opinion, but I don't really know if Walmart's going to change anything other than removing the words DEI.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Right. I don't know if they'll do anything but performative.
Well, I think that they have programs in place, like you can apply for scholarships or something. I'm assuming they have something to incentivize people that identify.
If they took that away, I think that's a strong mistake. I know the Waltons and the Walmart issue has not always been great with wages and unions, so I've always had an issue with Walmart. I don't particularly like to shop there. I'm going to get in so much trouble about this.
Why?
But I'm being honest with you because I don't care for the way they treat people with overtime. A lot of issues with Walmart. So if that's the case,
you're voting with your wallet.
Yeah, that's horrible. Now, if I think at some point, though, DEI has become sticky and gooey and uncomfortable. So companies don't want to be next to it like woke. And then that's why they did it.
Sam, do you think that's been done purposefully?
Oh, yes. Everything is. Everything is. From defund the police. Never really meant to get rid of the police. It meant you take away all of our tax dollar money, break it down and restructure it and look at what's not working and look at what's working and how do we improve it and then move financing and money around to help other programs. If there's somebody that might need mental health assistance rather than a
domestic violence
right.
liaisons.
So both sides do this, right? Whether it's we're seeing it more coming from the right, attacking woke, attacking defund the police, attacking DEI, and making it sound like it's this agenda to take jobs away from the hardworking people out there, the white people.
Right.
That's what they're kind of painting.
They're one
it's
and the
fear.
same.
I mean, it's just
it is.
It's just fear mongering.
Right.
When in
and
reality, if you really unpack all of that, it's all about equity, inclusion, restructuring, making sure that resources go to the right people, make sure you're not overspending. And so, you know, I just think, you know, we're in such a time where people, and I don't know if it's ever been different than today, because I know that politics has always weaponized and used strategies based on fear mongering. However, I think with social media,
Yes.
it becomes so amplified,
Yeah.
and then we all get at each other's throats and we don't know what's the facts and what's not. And then you can very easily believe your own idea of what you think
Right.
DEI
Eric, what do you
is.
think?
You do what I think people do what makes them feel safe and comfortable. Everyone does it. I think where it becomes problematic is when you have leadership that's endorsing that fear mongering. I don't like when, you know, there was like an uprising with like coal miners and the idea, and I've said this on the show too. I don't, you know, in terms of like coal, clearly we have some issues with our planet. We as consumers contribute to those issues. You can't go into someone's hometown where their granddaddy, their daddy, they like everybody was told that this is the way that you provide for your family and be like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like insert anything that we have energy, oil and gas.
Right.
Like that's how people have sustained
You're so
their
right.
families
You're so
for
right.
generations.
Yeah.
And so when you start to deal like, you know, I always like, I'm like Smokey, don't mess with my money. Messing with my money is like messing with my emotions. Was that big worm